Hello everyone, welcome to our video. If you are a frontline healthcare worker, this video is especially for you. What do we mean by a frontline healthcare worker?
Frontline healthcare workers are the doctors, the nurses, the staff, the receptionists, the administration staff, the management staff, the sanitation workers who are working in hospitals. These hospitals may be non COVID as well, but these are the hospitals that are running as essential services even through this lockdown.
The COVID-19 pandemic crisis has called upon healthcare workers from all over the world. It has brought out the warrior in us, making us fight this battle against all odds.
As with everyone, healthcare workers also have the first emotion of fear and anxiety towards getting the COVID-19 infection during this pandemic. There is also fear that they will expose their family and their loved ones to the COVID-19 infection. Not only are we battling this pandemic, we are also battling our fear every single day.
We may or may not get the COVID-19 infection, but we are all vulnerable to and suffering from the mental health consequences of the pandemic.
We have with us today Dr. Varsha Pai, who's a consultant anesthetist at a private hospital in Mumbai. Hi, Dr. Varsha.
Hi, Janaki. Hi, Dr. Siddhika. Hi, Dr. Janaki.
Hi, Dr. Varsha.
Varsha, we would really like to know what are the thoughts and emotions that go through the mind of a frontline worker during this time where you're dealing with so many cases of COVID, and especially in Maharashtra where, the pandemic is at its worst in India.
Yes.
So please tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, I'm actually not working with COVID positive patients. I'm just a part of the team that we do our routine OTs. So whatever rather I should say emergency OTs. So I work as a part of a team of anesthetists, and we help conduct whatever emergencies that the non-COVID illnesses that patients are dealing with, maybe appendicitis or cesareans and all those emergency surgery. That's what we are doing. And so yeah, initially we had absolutely no OTs going on. So actually I was kind of missing work, sitting at home, you know. So when we started working, say from April, the last few days of March and April, I was actually quite happy to be back to work. But yes, there's always this fear at the back of your mind that, although you are testing patients, we are testing patients prior to the OT before we take them up for surgery. You never know who is infected. So there was some amount of fear. Then again, a lot of changes in protocols. Earlier, we used to work as a team, like the 3-4 anesthetists together. So there's always someone to help you if there's a problem, if there's a high risk case or something. There's always someone helping you. But again, that's not the scene now. Now it's just one of us running whatever theaters, 1 or 2 theaters. So it also added to some amount of stress. Apart from apart from the fear of getting infected, the stress of working alone without any backup, without any support. So that I'm the junior most in the organization, and I'm taking the highest risks. So but although when you think rationally, you realize it's a part of life. I mean, this COVID pandemic is here to stay. It's not a matter of we'll be sorted in 15 days, 1 month, 2 months. No. So it's a matter of time. I mean, you may get infected at home, just a routine trip outside, or you may get infected at work. You can't really help it. So
yes, I think that's how we have taken it, that whether we go outside or whether we are in the hospital, there are chances of getting infected. So it's just a matter of when it's going to happen. Yeah.
It's a matter of when rather than how,
Yeah. So when you started off working, what were the challenges that you had to deal with?
So one is the entirely new protocols. Like a simple intubation, but now you use an aerosol box to intubate. then the garments that you're wearing, protective clothing. Apart from your OT clothing, you're wearing layers of PPE, the masks, hood, and all. It does interfere with, when you're doing work that requires what do you say, more focus, technically challenging work, like putting an epidural or something, which takes, where you have to, it's skilled work, but that your PP, your masks and everything, they interfere with your working. So
Hmm.
there is some amount, you are not, probably it's very difficult to focus on the task at hand when you're not
Hmm.
very comfortable in what you've done.
We've seen pictures of people, sweating a lot inside the PPE, and
Yes.
when they remove their PPE, how much they've perspired. So definitely, it's uncomfortable, even wearing the PPE for half an hour at a time.
Yes, and I really, I mean, at this is when I appreciate people who work like in ICU and 8 to 12 hour shifts. The whole shift they are in those garments. I mean, hats off. I mean, I can't imagine doing that. Maximum I have worn that is for like 3 or 4 hours, and that's also
Hmm. Hmm.
it's tough. Although in the OT it's well air conditioned and all, but still it's tough. So you're wearing a PP. Sometimes you would be wearing what do you say, a lead apron on top of that, and it's a
Hmm.
lot of. So then again, the second challenge is personal. Like your OTs are staffed lesser than usual, not your usual technicians, the assistants and all. They are not. Yeah, so they are working at half strength. So um, it's fine. It's once you get into the routine, it's fine. But in the initial few days, it was a little tough
Hmm.
to work around those challenges.
Hmm. What about
Then
the
sometimes,
staff? Uh, how are they feeling? How are they dealing with all this?
for them, I think from what I gathered after I spoke to a few of them, apart from the fear of infection, there was also there were also monetary concerns. Like we saw so many bills roaming around in on the social media where they said that people to go to either the government hospitals are full,
Yeah.
or they're not accessible. Private hospitals are charged; they cost you a bomb. So when we did overhear a couple of staff nurses and ward boys, and they were really worried about not just the infection but also the financial aspect of it.
Hmm.
Like, how are we going to manage it? So that is a fear. That fear is true for everyone. But
At a personal level, at your own inner level, what are the anxieties and fears that you may be facing?
yes, my biggest fear is getting the infection home to my family. I mean, we think about it, we look at it like younger people of my age are probably not at a risk of greater morbidity or mortality, but it isn't true because I have young children, I have elderly parents who I live with. So, the fear of infecting them is real, and it's a scary prospect. Uh, that is, and also there's that a small amount of guilt that I'll be the one getting it home to them. It may not
Hmm.
be entirely true, but it's more likely that if
Hmm.
they get infected, it's me who's bringing it home. So there's a lot of that fear as well as something at the back of my mind. Plus, in the lockdown, it's we are still working. Like, although I'm not working every day, it's 2 or 3 days a week. I'm still working. That doesn't mean that my usual help, someone who would help me on the home front, looking after my children or something, they are not there. So my family is also burdened with the routine work at home, childcare, home care. So compound that with that anxiety and that guilt. It's it's a lot,
Yeah.
but it's okay. I mean, part of
Yeah.
the profession, I guess.
It's funny how we feel a sense of guilt even before we have even actually we've not done anything. By getting infected, that you
Yes,
feel guilty, and also
yes.
before it actually happens, that you start feeling guilty.
Yeah, so initially actually it's great to go out and work, no doubt, and it feels nice to be a healthcare worker in these times,
Mm.
but at the same time it comes with its own burdens and its own problems. uh, like I said, that the guilt and the stress of getting it all home, Although sometimes there are times when my daughter tells me, "Mom, I'm so proud of you. You're a doctor. You're working." And then I tell her, "Okay, relax. I'm really not doing anything for the
Hmm.
COVID patients per se, but it feels nice when
Yes.
someone tells you something like that." At the same time, when you also hear about people who are being denied entry into their own homes or into their own residential complexes because they work in the hospital, it hurts. Like it really hurts. I mean,
Yeah. Like, in spite of everything, we see both sides of the story. On one side, that, healthcare workers have been evicted from their houses.
mm,
They've been not allowed back to their societies. And, they've had
yes,
to actually find different places to stay. Of course, they are
mm,
also careful. If they've been exposed, they do have a, 14 period of isolation or quarantine, which they anyway do. So I
mm,
think the fear that people have leads to that stigma. On the
mm.
other hand, you also have societies which have, clapped and brought in people after they have finished their duty. So you feel nice looking at that also.
Yes.
And another thing I wanted to say was, because of the COVID pandemic, what has happened is people who've needed help for MI or routine problems, um, they have not been able to go to the hospital. You also feel that, that we need to at least figure out a system for that. How is that going to happen? How are we going to treat patients who are
Especially,
not COVID positive?
yes. I think the worst affected are the ones who have respiratory problems. I mean,
Yes.
imagine having an acute exacerbation of COPD or asthma, or
Hmm.
having like acute renal failure or something, LV failure or something. Those people are in trouble because anyone who's breathless is
Hmm.
just you have to prove that you are COVID negative, and you cannot do that
Hmm.
like that. You have to. It takes 24 hours. And
Yes.
I read about someone who just was roaming around all over Mumbai in an ambulance for some couple of hours, and then that person, poor fellow, he went home and he just died.
Hmm.
And it's sad that we don't have uh, probably at that point in time, I'm not sure, we didn't have good protocols in place to say who goes
Hmm.
where. I mean, either
Yes.
you're COVID positive and you go to a COVID hospital, or you definitely have something like an acute abdomen or something where you
Hmm.
definitely don't need to go to a COVID hospital. But these people are the people who are suffering the most,
Hmm.
respiratory non-COVID illnesses.
Yeah. It's been a learning curve for everyone. Those who are managing the hospitals, the administration, everyone has had to learn through this experience, and then we've had to build on what is happening.
Absolutely, yeah. Because this is something totally out of the blue. I mean, it's
New
something that has never happened before.
that we
So,
didn't even expect. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, overwhelming.
Overwhelming, absolutely. It's like there's nobody who can go and approach and say, yes, this is the person who is the expert and he has all the answers. And even if
Yes.
there were, infectious disease experts who knew all the answers or keeping us updated, that would change after 1 week. The information that you have is actually changing. That's why it's like commendable that even those who are not working in the COVID-19 ICUs or the wards, they are also, coming to work and seeing their regular patients, seeing patients who are in trouble, especially I think the emergency doctors who've had to, start working from day one with the fear. Like it was not like, some of us, we had to take a step back, take a break, and then come back to work, and they had to, like, with the fear of whatever is going on, with the unknown of whatever is going on, they had to just keep working.
Very true.
So, Dr. Varsha, you talked about the stress that you had, related to the guilt, related to what you're, facing in terms of whatever is happening at work as well, the shortage of staff. So, how have you addressed that stress? Have you talked to anyone about it, and have you heard other doctors also talking about, the stress that they're going through?
Yes, so like I said, I have a lot of great colleagues. So some when we meet in the OT, we do talk about it. Also, our Eric. Apart from talking with our colleagues, is some kind of talking with other fellow doctors, other friends who are going through similar situation. Even just talking helps. And over the time over the last 1 month, we've been also able to find some solutions. first of all, getting used to working with whatever the situation is, like with the PPE in place or with the protocol, with the newer protocols. So it's okay. It's not. We've been able to manage it.
Was there any situation where you would have wanted to reach out to help, or was there anyone else whom you thought needed that help but couldn't access it?
But there are a lot of other, a few people I know who are, say, working in a government hospital as residents, or who are just doing their bond service. They don't have the choice of opting out. So they may have some other problems, health problems, problems of commuting, but they are still working. Yes, there are people like that who are not able to, who have stress, and their only way of dealing with the stress is just talking about it, So yes, I know someone who is going through that.
How is your family dealing with this? With you going to work, what is their reaction? Your kids, parents.
Although for parents and for my kids, it's more about me not being available around, because like I said, that otherwise I would have a backup system to take care of the kids and take care of the house when I'm not there. That system is not in place, and at the same time, I'm also not there. So for them, those are the greater stresses, and it's okay. Being they are not doctors, so they probably do not necessarily. They can't imagine the gravity of the situation. They know that the mortality and morbidity there is that they can't imagine it. Probably it's easier for them. My husband is he does get stressed out about it. Unfortunately, we've not really spoken much about it, but yeah, he does get stressed about me going out and getting infected. And I think he was even more stressed when we like for Mumbai doctors, our DMER has sent out forms that you are supposed to volunteer with your details. You just give your details for preference working period when you can work for 15 days, and place where you can work. Some part of me does understand that these are overwhelming times and situations. You really can't help it when the city is going through so much. At the end of the day, we train for this, right? You cannot really shrug it off. So
yes, of course, we have the expectation that they need to take the responsibility of keeping us safe, of providing us with all the equipment when we go to work.
So when this situation cropped up, my husband was really stressed about it. But then we just decided to take it one day at a time. Let's see how it goes. Are they calling us? When are they calling us? At least they have sent us a letter that we will give you PPE. You will be working only 6 to 8 hours at a stretch. You will get residential. Those who want, they can avail of a residential facility. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah,
So,
I think even that level of communication gives us a lot of comfort.
Yes.
We all had that initial anxiety when it started. So a lot of people didn't know what to do. How many times are you supposed to wash your hands? Especially the patients are already having anxiety, already having OCD. One patient telling me that I'm in a shop and I need to buy something. I'm using the sanitizer. I'm opening the door using the sanitizer, getting what I want using the sanitizer, giving my money or the ATM card, and then using the sanitizer again. So I had to actually explain to her that you don't need to do all that. Just finish everything, come back home, and then wash your hands. So that level, we need to think about all exacerbation of the anxiety and the OCD spectrum diseases also. That's what we wanted to do this video for, is to give them that kind of awareness that the emotional aspect of what is happening right now is very important, and you need to keep it in mind. You need to be thinking about it and be aware. Even if you can't take a break and go ask for help right now, keep it in mind. And once the situation gets a little easier, once you have a break, remember to go and talk to your family, talk to your friends, or talk to professionals about it.
Dr. Varsha, have you had any situations where you've actually dealt with people or your colleagues or someone testing is positive for COVID?
Yes. We have a couple of my colleagues have tested positive. They are doing fine now, but yeah. So actually, that was when it actually struck close to home. That yes, the very people you are working with who are not working otherwise with COVID positive patients are also falling sick. And like I said, it's just a matter of time when it's your turn. And but when it is so, it's when it actually, I know it sounds very shallow when I say this, but you feel it even more when someone you know is unwell, or someone you know personally, you work with, you spend time with, is unwell. It really, I mean, it really hits, it hits hard.
Yes.
I think it's just human, you know. It's not at all shallow. It's human to feel more for people who are closer to us and what we're seeing. You know, like when someone whom we're working with and is doing the same things that we do is having, you know, getting infected. It is way more stressful or way more, you know, real for us.
Hmm. It is.
We are also hearing of doctors who have a serious illness and who are positive. We had a few doctors in Chennai also who passed away, in Mumbai also who passed away, and that also gives you, like, somebody from our community. And when you hear stories about what has happened, you really feel bad about it. And
Yes.
you again, it comes to the feeling that nobody is immune from it, nobody is safe from it, and you will become all the more anxious.
There's this feeling that this could have been me
Yeah,
somewhere. Yeah.
yeah, correct. So I don't know how you must have felt, because we keep reading about how anesthetists are at maximum risk. You probably perform more aerosol generating procedures than anybody else. So, Varsha, I'm going to ask you a slightly tough question.
Hmm.
Have you thought about what you will do if you get symptoms or you test positive?
Okay, so yes and no. I mean, I've given it a very, what do you say, a very cursory thought. Ki yes, I have decided that probably if I do need to get me or anyone in my family needs to get hospitalized, I have decided that this XYZ hospital is where I would prefer to go.
Hmm.
There's a plan. And another slight something at the back of my mind is that there are some residences in my building itself, or the neighboring building, where the people don't live. We know them, but they don't stay. So maybe, if I have to be quarantined, and if they are kind enough to allow me
Hmm.
to use the premises for, say, maybe a period of a month, I can stay there, or at least keep my family there
Hmm.
safely away from me. So that's a very that's a thought. But yeah, I mean, I have seen that if everyone in the family falls ill, it's I don't know how to deal with that. It's going to be scary.
Yeah. So basically, the initial tendency is to avoid thinking about all this. Uh, you know, uh, and many people, their basic defense mechanism is saying that this is not going to happen to me. So then, we realize that yes, it may happen to me also. So then you start thinking about, okay, if this happens, what should I do? Which is basically very similar to taking out an insurance policy, right? So you
Hmm.
take an insurance policy saying, if this happens to me, I know I have this backup. I know I have this plan. My family
Hmm.
knows I have this plan. And then what we need to be careful of is that it doesn't spiral out of control. That we don't
Hmm.
end up thinking to, it may happen, so it's definitely going to happen. So then become scared about going out or going to work. That's not helpful in our situation. So we take precautions and then start doing our work as usual. I think that's a very helpful way to
Yes.
think about it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you have to strike the balance of being like absolutely confident that it's all going to be fine, or so scared that you can't, you have
Absolutely.
to, you can't live a normal life. So.
Yeah, I think you said that really well. Okay. So one last question. Um, when this is over, say in another 3 or 6 months, how do you see yourself? What do you want to do? What are you looking forward to?
I mean, contrary to what one may think, that I want to go on a vacation, I want to do this, I want to watch a movie. No, I just want to go to work and have a normal the kind of camaraderie we have at work, just normal chit chat, eat something, have fun, laugh, come back, on my way from hospital to the house, do some shopping. And I don't mean anything fancy, just, buy some fruits and vegetables like it was, like a normal day. I honestly, I'm yearning for just that, without having any, without any worries. Just go to the shop, look at some groceries, buy them what you need. That's it. I just want to, have a normal day, go to work and come back without many fears, like it was, say, maybe 2 months ago. That way.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. The same. Even I'm just looking forward to, even going for a walk around my apartment without the
Mhm.
fear that there are going to be too many people. I should maintain some kind of social distance. Just,
Huh.
maybe being able to, hug my friends without a fear. So these are very small things that we actually look forward to.
Yes.
Anything else, Dr. Janki?
I think we've had a really great, wonderful, candid discussion with Dr. Varsha.
So, what are you looking forward to, Dr. Janaki?
As you said, you took away my thunder there. I just want my son the same thing that I've felt, like my son, I used to send him to so many classes,
Huh.
tennis, this and that, and he's not a very sporty fellow. He just likes
Huh.
to, sort of stay home and read books.
Huh.
And now he's feeling fine. He's feeling comfortable reading books. And so I feel like I've learned a lesson here
Huh.
that,
Huh. Huh.
this COVID, I want to sit with him, have some time with him without feeling this anxiety, sit with him and read some books and, play a board game with him without it being forced, So that's the
Huh. Huh.
kind of feeling I have
Hmm.
at this point.
In the initial few days, I had this fear of, oh my God, what's going to happen? And I made sure that I was spending extra time with them, making extra good stuff for them, stuff they like, paying attention to their likes and needs. But now it's back to normal.
Yeah. How much time can you do that?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Varsha. It was a great conversation, and we loved having you with us.
Even I enjoyed having this discussion. After a long time, I'm actually having a conversation with other fellow doctors, and it feels great. Dr. Siddhika, Dr. Janaki, it was nice interacting with you on this session and listening to your points of view. And thank you for having me over.
Thank you so
So much.
much.
Thank you.
As you have heard, healthcare workers are facing the grim reality of COVID-19 infection in their patients, for themselves, their family, their loved ones. They also have to face the grim reality of their colleagues falling sick or even themselves falling sick.
We cannot ignore that this is mentally and emotionally exhausting in addition to the physical stress. As healthcare workers, we need to take care of our mental health. These are some of the ways in which you can take care of yourself.
Make sure that you are eating and sleeping well. Connect digitally with your family and your close friends during this time if you're not able to meet them.
When you connect with your family members, make sure that you share your feelings with them, have fun, and distract yourself from work.
Try to write down your feelings and thoughts, and using a journal for this would be really good.
Try to maintain a moderate exercise regime. It not only makes you fit physically, but it also energizes you mentally and improves your immunity. If you feel that keeping up with the news all the time, the increasing number of cases is making you feel overwhelmed, that's absolutely understandable. It is okay if you take a break from the 24 by 7 updates.
Avoid smoking and drinking.
If you are feeling anxious, depressed, frustrated, or overwhelmed, do not hesitate to reach out to your friends, reach out to your family, reach out to your colleagues who are going through the same thing, or talk to a psychiatrist or a psychologist who can help you process your emotions. You can also reach out to telephonic helplines. One of our colleagues, Dr. Ashlesha Bagadia, has started the Green Oak Initiative for this very purpose, and the details are mentioned as follows. To all of you who have been working tirelessly when the world has been in a lockdown, we salute you. We want to say, please take care of yourself and your emotional health. We are here for you. Thank you for watching.